The hayloft kept secrets, and tonight it kept him. Dusk thinned over the big Wyoming ranch. Cold air slid through the barn boards and smelled of hay and leather. Colehart moved slowly up the ladder, boots quiet, breath held. He was the rich man on this land, but up here, he wanted to be only eyes. Tests had a way of showing a man the truth. Tonight they meant to look it in the face. He found a hollow in the bales and settled. From here he could see the tack room below. Brittles hung like sleeping snakes. A lantern waited on a peg, wick-trimmed, clean glass. Mrs. Pike kept the place tidy, but the ranch had had small thefts lately. Soap nails, loose coins. Word traveled fast. Trust slower. The new maid had come this afternoon. Lena Ward, 21, shy eyes, sure hands. Mrs. Pike said she could sew like a doctor stitches skin. Cole nodded, said little. He was polite by habit, distant by need. Since his wife passed, distance felt safer than breath. He had chosen the tack room for the test. Easy things to pocket lay everywhere. A handful of pearl buttons rested in a tin near a cedar trunk. The trunk held pieces of a life he did not open. He told himself he was not cruel. He told himself he was careful. Maybe both were true. Wind pressed the roof and let go. A horse stamped once in the next stall. The yard dog turned twice and went still. Cole watched the barn door. It was a thin black line in the dusk now. Footsteps. Light even. Then the door eased open. Lena slipped in. She set down a small sewing basket and lit the lantern. Her face warmed in the glow. She looked around, not greedy, not afraid. She took a long breath as if marking the room like a map. She began with work. Brushes sorted. Curry combs wiped. Leather checked and oiled. She counted each bridle slowly. 1, 2, 3. Every loop back on its peg. Cole felt a weight in his chest shift, not falling, not lifting. At last her gaze found the cedar trunk. She hesitated. Her hand hovered over the lid, then rested. The barn seemed to listen. Cole did not move. Slowly she opened the trunk and looked down. Eyes wide, gentle, knowing more than she should. Lena lifted something from the cedar trunk with both hands. It was a blue dress, folded and clean, but torn at the side seam. The fabric was fine but worn. The kind a rancher's wife might wear on Sundays, not for work. Pearl buttons ran down the front like a small river, some loose, one missing. She held the dress against the lantern light and smiled once, small and sad. Then she set it across her lap like a sleeping child. Cole's breath caught. That dress had not felt the air in a long time. He had locked the wardrobe in the house, but Mrs. Pike had moved a few things to the trunk for safekeeping during the last spring flood. He knew this. He had told himself he would sort it later. Later had drifted like smoke. He had not touched the dress since the funeral. Lena ran her thumb along the torn seam. She did not look to see if anyone watched. She did not reach for the tin of buttons first. She reached for her own sewing basket and pulled out a small roll of thread and 2 fine needles. Her hands were sure, steady as a clock. She lowered her head and to the empty room said in a soft voice, "You are loved." He still is. He just forgot how to show it. The words moved through the air like a warm hand over cold water. Cole felt them on his skin. He did not shift. He did not breathe for a count of 5. Lena threaded the needle and began to mend the seam with small, even stitches. She matched the edges, tied the thread, and worked like someone fixing a cut that would hold through rain and work, and dancing. Every few minutes she paused to smooth the cloth, to check the line, to listen to the barn. She found the loose buttons and set them in a neat row. She did not remove one. She used a scrap from her basket and made a small loop to replace the missing button's hold. When she was done with the seam, she lifted the dress again and looked it over as if it were a promise being kept. "Better," she whispered. "Not new, but better." Cole's hand closed on the hay bale until the straw creaked. Something in him leaned forward like a man near a fire after too long in the cold. Cole felt a tremor start in his hands and run up his arms. He set his palms flat on the hay, but the shake still showed in his wrists. Straw tickled his skin. The smell of dust and horse rose, and with it an old ache he had kept behind a wall. He told himself to be still. He told himself to breathe slowly. His body did not listen. Below, Lena kept sewing. Her needle flashed in the lantern like a small star. She did not rush. She did not look around for treasure. She looked at the tear, then the thread, then the line she made true. At times she hummed under her breath. It was not a tune he knew, but it felt kind. A board in the loft creaked. Cole froze. Lena paused, head tilted, listening. After a moment she resumed, calm as before. He let air out through his nose and shifted his weight to silence the plank. The dress took shape again. The torn seam lay smooth, held by careful stitches. Lena set the needle down and rubbed her finger along the mend to test it. She nodded in quiet approval. Then she searched the tin, found the right pearl, and set to anchor it. The button turned once and settled in place. Something in Cole slipped. It was not anger. It was not fear. It was the held breath of a long winter leaving. His eyes burned. He shut them and saw his wife when she laughed. The porch. The blue dress. The day they came home from church and danced in the kitchen. He had forgotten the sound her hem made. He almost spoke her name. The sound rose and stopped. He bit it back and covered his mouth with his fist. The shake passed into his shoulders. He felt foolish and weak and more alive than he had in months. Lena folded the dress across her forearms and stood. "You belong back where you hang," she said softly. "Not in a box." She looked toward the house, then at the lantern, weighing time. She laid the dress in the trunk for now on clean paper and closed the lid with care. She cleaned up her tools, blew the lantern to a low glow, and whispered, "Tomorrow." Then she carried her basket to the door, checked the latch, and slipped into the night. Morning found frost on the water trough and a thin sun on the hills. The barn woke slowly. A horse snorted, chains tapped, the yard dog yawned and stretched. Cole climbed down from the hayloft with stiff legs and a strange calm. He brushed straw from his coat and stood in the aisle a long minute, feeling the quiet move through him. Mrs. Pike came in with a bucket and a look that saw too much. "You were up early," she said. "Couldn't sleep," he answered. She nodded once. Sleep comes to men who face things. Then she set to chores with brisk hands. Lena arrived soon after. Hair in a simple braid, apron clean. She gave a polite good morning and went to the tack room. Cole felt his eyes pull toward the cedar trunk. He kept them on a saddle instead. Silas Crow drifted in like a shadow. He was narrow, with boots and a mouth that looked ready to say more. He pretended to check a bridle, but his gaze fixed on Lena. When she lifted the blue dress from the trunk to fold it better, his eyebrows went up. He stepped back into the yard. By noon, whispers moved faster than the wind. "New girls wearing the widow's things," a hand said at the pump. "Bold as brass," another added. "Not right," someone muttered. Cole heard two cowboys talking low near the corral. Heat rose to his face. He knew it was a lie. He had seen the truth. Yet his throat closed. Pride is a heavy saddle, his father used to say. A man gets sore under it and still refuses to climb down. Mrs. Pike cornered him by the grain bins. "You will fix this, Cole Hart," she said, voice like a broom handle. "That girl mended what you would not touch. Now men make sport of her because you will not say a plain word." He stared at the cracked floorboards. "I will handle it." "You will handle it how?" She pressed. "Quietly," he said. She clicked her tongue. "Quietly is how rot spreads." Lena came out with the dress folded neatly in paper, heading for the house. Silas watched from the fence, telling a story with his eyes. Cole felt the choice rise before him, a gate. Open it and speak, or keep testing and let the talk grow teeth. Right now, today, the house smelled of soap and cedar when Lena stepped inside. She carried the folded dress like a careful letter. Mrs. Pike met her in the hallway and took the paper bundle with care. "We will return it to the wardrobe proper," she said. "Not today, perhaps, but soon." Lena nodded and went to the kitchen to scrub pans and set beans to soak. On the porch, Cole paused with his hat in his hands. He could walk in and end the talk with one sentence. He could say, "The dress is my late wife's. The maid mended it for the house." No blame to her. Simple words. True words. His mouth shaped them and then forgot them. Silas slid by the open door like a fox. He spoke to two hands saddling up. "Saw the new maid with fine cloth," he said, easy and low. "Shame wearing what ain't hers. The boss must be blind." Laughter cracked like thin ice and left a mark. Cole stepped down into the yard. "Back to work," he told the men, voice flat. They went, and Silas tipped his hat with a smile that did not reach his eyes. Through the afternoon, tasks stacked like cordwood. A pump to fix, a lame calf to check, a line of fence to walk. Cole did them all with clean skill. He could hang a gate true and fit a shoe to a hoof. Yet the small thing he needed most, a public word, sat heavy and unlifted. Near sunset, Lena carried the dress across the yard toward the house again. A gust lifted the paper and showed a blue edge. Two ranch hands looked up from the trough. One smirked. The other glanced at Cole and then away, uncertain. Cole felt the tilt of the day. A man keeps or loses his place by what he says when it costs him pride. He started forward, stopped, started again. The yard seemed to hold its breath. Even the dog went still. Some choices arrive quietly and change everything. Mrs. Pike opened the door and stood there, still as a judge. She did not call out. She only watched him like a far ridge. Cole reached the steps and touched the paper bundle himself. "It goes back," he said to Lena, "where it belongs." He looked toward the yard, Silas by the gate, the crew half listening. "Tomorrow," he added, "properly." Night came early with a sky clear as glass. The lamps in the big house burned softly. Cole stood in the doorway of the sewing room, hat in his hand. Lena sat at the table with a square of cloth and the blue dress folded nearby. Her braid hung over one shoulder. The needle moved steady and bright. She looked up when she felt him there. She did not jump. She did not hide the dress. She set the needle down and folded her hands. "Sir," she said, calm. "I came to ask," Cole said. His voice sounded rough, as if it had slept in dust. "Why did you touch it?" "So the house would stop hurting you," she answered. "Things speak when they are broken and put away." This one was loud. He stepped into the room. The air smelled of soap, thread wax, and cedar. On the wall hung a shelf with spools. The floorboards had been scrubbed pale. "You should have asked me," he said. "I would have if asking did not feel like asking you to walk through a graveyard." She met his eyes without fear. "I can sew seams. I cannot sew a man's heart. But I can help a room go quiet." He looked at the dress. The mend was clean. The button sat where it should, like a note in the right chord. "You fixed it, true." "I fixed what cloth can fix." She rose and lifted the dress. "It belongs back on its peg. May I return it to the wardrobe proper?" His mouth made the start of a yes, but pride was quick. He swallowed. "Tomorrow. I will take it. Then I will carry it with you," she said. No plea in her voice, no angle. Just the simple offer. Silence held a long breath. A clock ticked in the hall. Somewhere a pan settled with a soft ring. "Thank you," he said at last. It surprised him to hear the words out loud. They felt like a door opening. She nodded. "You are welcome." He took the dress from her hands, careful as if it were bone. The weight of it steadied him. The room did feel quieter. As he turned to go, she added, "Sir, about the talk. If it is not set straight, it will grow legs, I know," he said. "I will set it straight, soon and openly." The wind picked up after supper. It came first as a hiss in the cottonwoods, then a steady push that made the porch boards hum. Clouds rolled in fast from the west, heavy and low like cattle pressing a fence line. Mrs. Pike shut the windows and checked the lamps. Lena tied the kitchen door with a strip of cloth so it would not bang. Cole stood on the porch and tasted dust. Storm coming. Sure as taxes. He carried the blue dress to the front room and hung it on its peg. The house seemed to take a deep breath. He did too. Then thunder walked across the hills and the breath turned to hurry. A shout cut through the yard. Fence, another voice answered. Hooves drummed. Cole was moving before he thought. He grabbed his coat, ran for the barn, and met Silas at the gate. Lightning flashed white, showing a section of corral slumped like a broken rib. North wall blue, Silas yelled. Gate was open. Stock spooked. Who left it? A hand called. Silas lifted his chin toward the house. Kitchen girl was in here last. Said she fetched soap. Cole stopped dead in the rain. He remembered something small, bright as a nail in a plank. Yesterday, near dusk, Silas standing by that same latch, fingers fussing with the chain while talking to a hand about a bridle. Cole had seen the metal hang loose a beat longer than it should. He had told himself it was nothing. He had not wanted more trouble. He felt that old wall in him try to rise again. Lena was never in the corral. Mrs. Pike's voice cut sharply from the doorway. She was with me, cleaning lamps. Lightning cracked again. A yearling bawled. Cole made the choice his father would have named plain. Speak now, work now. Quit talking, he snapped. Move. He swung into the pen like a man who knew how. He put 3 men on the far side to push the herd back. He took the gate himself, set his shoulder, and turned the stream of bodies into the soundest corner. His voice carried low and sure. Easy, easy now. He read the animals, their eyes, their feet. He caught a colt by the halter, soothed it with a hand on the neck, and passed it to a steady rider. Lena came with a rope, quiet and quick. She didn't freeze. She looped, tied, braced, and took orders clean. Stormwater ran off her braid in a line. Thunder rolled again. A second wall buckled. Silas, Cole called. With me. Rain came slanting, hard as thrown gravel. Cole and Silas ran along the sagging rail. Lightning lit their shadows on the boards. The far corner leaned, ready to drop. Cattle pressed, eyes white, heads tossing. Hold that post, Cole shouted. Silas grabbed it with both hands but looked over his shoulder jittery. Gate never holds in a blow, he said, loud enough for nearby men to hear. Told you someone left it loose. Hold, Cole said again. His voice cut like a rope pulled tight. He wedged his shoulder under the next beam and lifted. Ben wedges. Pike, bring nails. Lena, line me a brace. Lena was already moving. She slid a plank down from the wall rack, set the butt against the ground, and kicked it in deeper with her heel. Here, she said, and jammed the angle into place. Cole drove 2 nails with quick, heavy swings. The wood bit groaned, then settled. A bay mare tried to jump the low spot. Lena stepped left and snapped a loop over the mare's neck on the first throw. Easy, girl, she murmured, hand on the cheek, steady as a fence post. She passed the lead to a rider who moved her into the safer end. Wind grabbed Cole's coat and tried to haul him backward. He set his feet. Push from the open side, he called. No shouting, no whips. Panic spreads faster than lightning, his father used to say. Calm as a gate. They worked like a team that had done this 100 times. Men pushed. Others held rails. Mrs. Pike dragged a tub of spikes across the mud and planted herself by the toolbox, passing what was asked for with a nod and a look that said, keep going. Silas's grip slipped. The post dropped an inch. Hands. Cole barked. 2 men jumped in and the post rose again. Silas shook out his fingers, shot a glance at Lena, and said under the noise, should have checked that latch. Cole met his eyes. I saw you at that latch yesterday, he said, low and plain. You fussed it loose, telling a story. Silas flinched. Must have been someone else. Work, Cole said. We'll talk after. Another crack of thunder. The second wall gave with a splintering pop. Cole didn't swear. He moved. New brace. Used the feed trough. He and Lena tipped the heavy trough, dragged it into place, and made a living buttress out of muscle and grit. The herd's panic broke, then bent, then finally began to settle. Rain softened to a steady pour. The worst of the push was over. Cole stood in the mud, breath heaving, watching the cattle calm. He knew what he had seen. He knew what he would say, soon and in front of every pair of ears that needed to hear. Rain slowed to a calm drum on the roof. The herd breathed, a low hush of bodies like waves on a far shore. The braces held. The gate sat true. Men set the tools back in the box and rolled their shoulders. No one laughed. Work had burned the talk out of them. Cole leaned on the top rail for a moment and let his heartbeat settle. Mud chilled his boots. The lantern light made gold islands on the wet boards. He looked at Lena. Her braid was soaked. Her hands were scraped, clean lines of work across the skin. She was watching the cattle, not him. "Good rope," he said. "Good calls," she answered. "They followed your voice." Mrs. Pike came up with a tin of salve. "Hold still," she told Lena and dabbed the scrapes. Then to Cole, "Crew will gather in the barn mouth. You can speak while they coil lines." Cole nodded. Words gathered in him. Some were heavy. Some were simple. He would choose the simple ones. He looked at Silas. The foreman stood apart, hat low, jaw tight. Rain traced the brim and fell like seconds. "Pike," Cole said. "Thank you." It was small but true. She sniffed. About time. They moved toward the barn mouth. The storm thinned to a steady patter. Horses shook and settled. A yearling nosed the rail where Cole stood. He rubbed its forehead and felt the animal lean into the touch. Lena set the coiled rope on a peg. She glanced at him once. A steady look that said, "Do the right thing now." He thought of his father's sayings. He thought of the dress on its peg. "A house breathes or suffocates by the truth you let inside," he heard in his head. He chose breath. He stepped into the open space by the doors. The men drifted close, shoulders steaming in the cool air. Silas hung back, but not far enough to miss a word. Cole kept his voice even. "We held the herd because you worked as one," he said. No panic. No shouting. That saves lives. He let the praise land, then lifted a hand. "One more thing. The latch yesterday, I saw it. We will set that straight in front of all." Silas looked up sharply. Lena's face did not change. Mrs. Pike folded her arms and waited. "Bring the crew," Cole said. "Now please." Boots thudded on the barn floor as the hands gathered. Rain tapped the eaves. The big doors stood open and the storm air felt clean. Cole faced them with his hat off. He looked like himself, not a shadow. That mattered. "We finished the push," he said. "Good work. Now we set two things straight." Men stilled. Then a lantern hissed. Silas lifted his chin and wiped mud from his sleeve like it was the only stain. "First," Cole said, "the latch. Yesterday at dusk I saw Silas at that chain talking and fussing. The metal hung loose. Tonight the gate stood open. That is a fact. I will not dress it up. We will fix the habit that caused it." A murmur ran along the line. Silas stepped forward a half pace. "Gate's old wood." "It slips," he said. "Could be anyone's mistake." "It was yours," Cole replied even. "And mine for not speaking the minute I saw it." "That won't happen again." Silas's jaw worked. He said nothing. "Second," Cole went on, "talk about the Maid stops now. Lena Ward did not take a thing. She mended what was mine to mend. You will give her the same respect you want for your own kin." Eyes moved to Lena. She stood straight, hands calm at her sides, eyes clear. Mrs. Pike's shoulders dropped a fraction, the kind of relief that shows after a long hold. A young hand asked, "You want it written, boss?" "Yes," Cole said. He pointed to the chalkboard near the tack room. "We'll post a simple rule. Gates latched, names by the latch. We'll mark who closes and who checks. We will run an audit in the morning. Tools, nails, soap, and feed. No blame past this night. Clean start, clean books." He turned to Silas. "You'll help me set posts at first light. After, you'll write your account of last evening and sign it." Silas swallowed. "If I don't?" "Then you can ride," Cole said. "Choose right now." Silas looked around and found no friendly eyes. "All right," he muttered. Cole nodded once. "Good, get home, dry off. Be back by sunup." He looked at Lena last. "Thank you," he said so all could hear. "For steady hands." "Welcome," she answered. The men filed out, quieter than they came. The rain eased to mist. The barn felt wider, like a window had opened inside its walls. Dawn came pale and honest. The chalkboard near the tack room showed fresh rules in neat print. Latch, name, check. Tools were counted and squared in their box. Soap tallied, nails bagged and tied. Men nodded as they passed, reading their own names, seeing the clean start promised. Cole signed at the bottom, so no doubt backed the words. By mid-morning, the Sunday bell in town carried on the wind. Mrs. Pike set the house in order and handed Lena a shawl. "Service will do folks good," she said. "Sun after a storm." Cole saddled 2 horses and waited by the gate. When Lena came out, he did not avert his eyes. "Ride with us," he said. It was simple. It was public. The road into town ran along cottonwoods and a slow creek. Mud sucked at hooves, but the sky was bright. Cole rode steadily, hat low, listening to the creek talk around stones. Lena kept an even pace, sure. Mrs. Pike followed in the wagon, hymn book on the seat beside her. They reached the whitewashed church as other ranchers swung down. Heads turned. Talk flickered like sparrows. Cole tied off, squared his shoulders, and faced it. He tipped his hat to the pastor first. "Morning." "Morning, Mr. Hart," Pastor Hale said, eyes kind and sharp. "Hard blow last night." "Held the herd," Cole answered. "Crew worked as one." Then, so the yard could hear, "This is Miss Lena Ward in my employ. She mended what grief left undone in my house. She has my thanks and my respect." He did not raise his voice. He did not repeat himself. Silence held a beat. Then Mrs. Brandt, who ran the mercantile, nodded once. "Good hands are hard to find," she said. "Miss Ward, if you need thread finer than what we have, tell me. I'll order it." "Thank you, ma'am," Lena said. On the steps, a young cowboy from another spread touched his brim toward Lena, then toward Cole. The temperature of the yard changed by a degree. Only men who live outside can feel it. Pastor Hale smiled small. "Come in." The service was plain, 2 hymns, 1 prayer, a reading about truth and the tongue. Cole stood straight. When it came time for announcements, he cleared his throat. "We'll send timber for the school fence this week," he said. "Storm took a panel." "Bless you," the teacher said. Outside after, a rancher asked carefully, "You doing all right, Hart?" Cole looked past him a moment at the hills. "I am learning," he said. "Law's just a word without a backbone." He added quietly, "So is home." Lena heard him. She did not speak, but something eased in her face like a not letting go. Monday rode in on clear light and hard tasks. After church, the ranch went back to work. Men reset posts. Rails were cut and hauled. Cole moved from crew to crew with steady eyes and short orders. He meant to keep things simple and true. Before noon, Silas came to the porch with a folded paper. "My account," he said. His smile was thin. Cole opened it. The words were neat but slippery. Silas wrote that he checked the latch, that someone must have touched it after. He said nothing about talking and fussing with the chain. At the bottom, his name was signed small. Cole folded the paper once. "This leaves out the piece that matters." Silas shrugged. "Could be your memory, boss. Storm nights blur. Anyway, a cattle buyer rides the rail spur on Wednesday. He wants a clean count by sundown. You need a foreman who knows the pens. If you push me out, 3 riders go with me. Your choice." Clock's ticking. It was a quiet threat set on a schedule. That was the pressure Silas liked. Time and fear. Cole looked at the hills and then at the man. "We post counts on the board. We work the pens by rule, not rumor. You'll be at the barn at dusk. We will read your account out loud. Then we will set things straight." Silas tipped his hat, eyes cold. "Dusk, then." He walked off slowly, telling 2 hands. "Buyer hates mess. Boss wants stories, not cattle." Inside, Mrs. Pike stood with a ledger under her arm. "He gave you a fuse," she said. "Don't let it burn you." "I won't," Cole said. Lena came from the sewing room with clean cloth for tack wraps. "If you like, I can copy the herd ledger clean before sundown," she said. "Names, gates, counts. I write steadily. Folks make fewer mistakes when they sign under their own numbers." "Do it," Cole said. "We will show the truth plain." She sat at the table by the window, pen scratching like a small saw through dry wood. Mrs. Pike fetched the old notebooks, the chalk marks from the pens and the weight slips from last month. They built a picture with ink and patience. Out in the yard, men worked more quietly than usual. The clock Silas set could be felt on their shoulders. A train would whistle on Wednesday. Money would change hands. Pride would too. Cole checked his pocket watch at 4, then at 5. He hung the blue dress straighter on its peg as the sun turned late. "Dusk," he said to the room. "We speak it clean." Dusk slid in soft as ash. The crew gathered by the barn's mouth. The ledger lay open on the tack table, lines straight, names clear. Men wiped their hands on their trousers and stood in a half circle waiting. Cole checked the chalkboard once, then met their eyes. He looked ready to speak. Lena felt a strange warmth on the ladder rail. Not the kind from hands. A deeper heat. She frowned and sniffed. Sweet like bread, but wrong in a barn. She pressed her palm to the loft post. "Hot, Mr. Hart," she said, low but urgent. "Hay's warm." Cole moved fast. He climbed 3 rungs, touched the post, and pulled his hand back. "Heat pocket," he said. "Wet bales stacked tight." He raised his voice. "Bucket line now. Ben, cut the ridge vent. Don't open wide. Just enough to breathe. Pike, water. Sand from the smithy, too. Move," Silas said. "We can hear the account first. It's probably nothing." Cole's look was flat. "Do it." Men jumped. Mrs. Pike formed a line from the pump to the barn, passing pails hand to hand. Lena ran for hooks. Cole climbed to the hot spot and began to drag the top bales away, slow and careful, making a narrow trench so air could bleed without feeding flame. The first bale came free. Steam rose. A dull glow showed deep inside like a coal under skin. "Easy," Cole said. "No rush, no air gush." He wrapped his coat over his hands and hauled the bale to the edge. "Lena, ready." "I'm here," she said. She braced on the ladder, took the weight with the hook, and guided it down. 2 men carried it into the yard and split it open. The center smoked. Sand hissed. Water followed. The glow died. Another bale. Hotter. It coughed sparks at the edge. Ben's hatchet ticked open a small slot at the roof peak. Warm breath left the barn in a thin thread. The air eased. Silas reached for a bale and yanked. Flame licked. "Not like that," Cole snapped. Small moves. He took the bale himself and broke it in half. The crew learned from his hands. They worked steadily. Hook, drag, pass, split, sand, water. Mrs. Pike's voice kept count. "Next, next. Keep it coming." The sweet, wrong smell faded. At last, the post felt warm, not hot. The loft floor steamed and went dark. No beam was burned through. The barn still stood. Cole looked at the men. Heat under hay, heat under words. Both burned barns. He caught his breath. "We finish the job, then we speak." Steam curled from the split bales and drifted out the doors. The crew breathed easier. The floor was wet and dark, but the boards were sound. Cole wiped his hands on his coat and looked at the men one by one. No one joked. Work had made them quiet, ready to hear. "Thank you," he said, plain. "You kept your heads. That saves barns." Mrs. Pike passed the last bucket and set it aside. "Now you talk," she told Cole. "While the truth is warm." Cole nodded. He stepped to the tack table where the ledger lay open. Lena stood near the ladder, eyes steady. Silas leaned against a stall door, arms crossed. "We post rules to stop accidents," Cole began. "But rules cannot stop a lie. A lie needs a voice to carry it. Tonight I will take that voice away." He lifted the paper Silas had written. "This account leaves out what matters." Yesterday at dusk, Silas fussed with that latch with talk in hands. I saw it. I should have spoken then. I did not. That is on me. He let that sit. "The open gate is on him." Silas pushed off the door. "Careful, boss. The buyer comes on Wednesday. You fire me now, you lose riders in time." "We are not bought with our own fear," Cole said. "Men can ride up or ride out. The truth stays." Silas scanned the room seeking allies. He found none. Warm steam rose from the floor. He sneered toward Lena. Maybe the maid wants my job. She likes touching what ain't hers. Lena did not move. I mend brakes, she said. That is all. Cole kept his voice level. Talk about her stops. Now, Silas, you are done here. He looked at the crew. I pay him for today. He leaves at sunup. Tools back, horse turned in, account signed with the line you forgot. Silas laughed. You think they will all clap? No, Cole said. I think they will go to work. For a breath, only Rain spoke. Then Ben said, Gates my check tomorrow, boss. Others nodded. Silas stared at Cole. You'll regret this. Maybe, Cole answered. But I will not be ashamed. He turned the ledger to Mrs. Pike. Read the counts, he said. Then we bed the herd and lock up. The barn felt taller, as if a beam had been set straight inside it and held. The barn emptied slowly, like a tide going out. Men put tools away and said short goodnights. Boots faded into the yard. The storm had washed the air clean. Cole stood by the ledger until the last rope was coiled. Then he closed the book and looked at Lena and Mrs. Pike. Walk with me, he said. They crossed the yard in a quiet line, past puddles that held the moon. On the porch, Cole paused so two hands passing by could hear. Talk ends, he said. Work begins. The men tipped their hats and moved on, and the message went with them like a lamp passed hand to hand. Inside, the front room was still. The blue dress hung on its peg, neat and whole. Cole took it down himself. He did not flinch. Back where you belong, he said. More to the house than to the cloth. He carried it to the locked wardrobe. The key lay in a dish. He lifted it, opened the door, and breathed out when the hinges gave a soft sound. Shelves held folded things. A shawl, a ribbon, a small hat and paper. Ghosts, but not to be feared. He set the dress on its peg and smoothed the skirt. Thank you for mending, he said to Lena. You're welcome, she answered. He turned to the women. I want one more thing done. Please finish the hem the way she liked, with a small fold. Use what cloth is left to sew curtains for the nursery. I locked that room after. He stopped, then finished. After the funeral, it should open. Mrs. Pike's eyes shone, but her voice was brisk. Then we'll open it. Lena nodded once. I can start tomorrow. I'll measure the windows and cut carefully. Good, Cole said. He set the key back. No more locks for grief. Only locks for weather and wolves. He faced them square. This house belongs to all who keep it honest. Miss Ward, you have my respect and fair wages. More than that, you have my trust. If I fall short, tell me plain. I will, she said, and I will do right by what you trust me with. They left the wardrobe open like a window. The hall felt wider. The house breathed deeper as if it remembered home. Outside, the wind turned gentle. Tomorrow would be work. Tonight was a promise kept. Morning brought work that looked like healing, not hiding. Lena measured the nursery windows with a length of twine and wrote numbers in chalk on the doorframe. She opened the shutters and let the sun fall across a small wooden horse on the shelf. She smiled and set the horse on the sill to watch the yard. Mrs. Pike aired quilts on the line and banged a rug until it gave up 2 winners of grit. Men run on coffee, she said, but houses run on hot water and honest talk. At the barn, the new rule worked like a quiet metronome. Hands latched, signed, and checked. Ben caught himself reaching past the chain, then laughed and put his name down first. Backbone, he said, tapping the board. Law needs one. Silas packed his roll before sunup. He turned in his horse and saddle numbers with stiff care. No one cheered and no one begged him to stay. He rode out at the creek ford, hat low. The yard felt lighter, as if someone had opened a window. By now the train's far whistle stitched the hills. The buyer arrived with mud on his stirrups and a book under his arm. Cole met him at the pens. Counts were posted. Animals stood calm, shining on their backs from a quick brush. Lena watched from the shade with a ledger in her lap, ready to read numbers if asked. The buyer walked the alley slowly, nodding at the solid rails and the neat chalk. Clean place, he said. Clean people, Cole answered. They weighed steers and shook on a fair price, no drama. Just work done right today. In town that evening, Cole sent timber for the school fence as promised. The teacher waved from the yard, hair loose in the wind. Children ran the line counting boards. Cole stood a moment and let the sound of children's feet fill the space where grief used to echo. Back home, Lena hung the first curtain panel. The new cloth softened the room. She stitched a small hidden star in the hem, a seamstress's prayer for peace. Cole noticed and did not ask for its meaning. Some blessings do their work quietly. They ate stew at the long table, just three of them, with windows open to the pink sky. No speech, only talk and silence. Home, like a horse, moved best under a light hand. The next day settled like good weather after a flood. Work found its rhythm, and the ranch breathed in time with it. Cole checked fences, rode the line, and came back before dark instead of after. He spoke more and tested less. That change was small to the eye and big to the heart. In the sewing room, Lena finished the blue dress with the small fold on the hem. She pressed it with a warm iron and hung it in the wardrobe, not as a shrine, but as something cared for. Then she set the leftover cloth on the table and marked out the second curtain. Mrs. Pike kept the ledger by the kitchen window. Each evening, she wrote a single line of thanks beneath the day's numbers. Some days it was for rain, some for dry, some for a job done right the first try. Habits are prayers, she said, whether we mean them or not. After supper, Cole knocked on the nursery doorframe. He did not step in until Lena said, "Come." He stood by the window, hands easy at his sides. "I used to lock this room," he said. "Now I want it open to remind me to live in the rooms I still have." "That is good," she answered. She kept stitching, simple and sure. "You do not need big words to live true." He smiled a little. Big words never fixed a gate. They were quiet for a time. Outside, frogs began their faint song by the creek. At last he said, "When I hired you, I watched from the hayloft like a man afraid of his own walls. I will not watch like that again. If I have a question, I will ask. If I have a fear, I will say it plain." Lena tied off a thread. "Then we will work well." "I do the same." He looked at her hands. "You are strong," he said. "Strong enough for cloth and for truth," she said. "Both stretch if you pull too hard. Both hold if you pull just right," he nodded. "Tomorrow is market day. Ride in with us. We will buy seed and twine. After, there is a small dance on the green. You are welcome if you wish." "I will come," she said, and the room seemed to brighten by a shade you almost have to feel to see now. Market day came with bright sun and a wind like flower dust. The town green wore ribbons and the store stacked seed sacks by the door. Cole tied off the horses and helped Mrs. Pike down. Lena stepped to the boardwalk, quiet eyes that missed nothing. They bought twine, seed, and a tin of buttons. Mrs. Brandt wrapped the parcel and said, "Your stitch kept a sleeve from tearing today, Miss Ward." It was ordinary praise, and it meant more. By afternoon, a fiddler set up under the cottonwood. Mothers spread blankets. Children ran in circles like colts. Lanterns lit early so the light would pool before dark. Cole watched the first dance form. He had not stood in such a crowd since the funeral. Lena waited at the edge of the green. She did not push forward. She looked content to listen and watch. Cole walked to her. His voice was low. "Would you like to try a simple one? I can count the steps." "Simple is good," she said. They joined the line. The tune was easy as a creek. He placed his palm near her hand without hurry. When the call said turn, they turned. When it said change, they changed. Her skirt moved like a bell. He found he could breathe and step at the same time. People watched, then relaxed when they saw the plainness of it. Mrs. Pike sat with two church ladies and smiled in a way that looked like relief, not victory. Between songs, Cole said, "I will not hide in rafters again. If I need to know a thing, I ask. If I fear a thing, I say it. That is my new rule." "You deserve that," Lena answered. "Then I will meet you with the same." The fiddler began a waltz. Cole hesitated. "I have not waltzed since—" He did not finish. She did not press. He drew a breath and held out his hand. One time around? One time, she agreed. They moved slowly, carefully, and honestly. The circle opened and closed around them. A few men lifted 2 fingers from their hats to Cole as he passed, a quiet sign that said, "We see you, we see her, and we approve." When the tune ended, Cole said, "On this ranch you are not a roomer. You are part of the work, and part of what I hope comes next." Evening settled softly over the ranch. Fence lines stood straight. The chalkboard by the tack room showed neat names and checks. The school fence in town had new rails. Children had already smudged them with happy hands. Work was calm. Talk was cleaner. Cole called a short meet by the barn mouth. "No speeches," he said. "Just thanks. Ben takes latch duty this week with a penny bonus. Rotate by rows. If you spot a weak board, mark it, fix it, and sign it. Simple holds." Men nodded. Hats tipped. The crew drifted back to chores with the easy step of people who knew where they stood. After supper, the porch held a quiet light. Mrs. Pike shelled peas in a bowl and kept her counsel. Cole stood at the railing, then faced Lena. He did not look at his boots. He looked at her. "I have a thing to say plain," he began. "I was a man who tested from shadows. That stops. If I need the truth, I will ask. If fear rides me, I will name it. I want partnership, not control." Lena folded her hands, listening. "I am not asking for marriage tonight," he said. "I am asking for steady courtship and shared choices. Fair wages are written down. Keys shared for rooms that matter. You keep your own savings, your own say. We make a house where work is clean and talk is cleaner." Mrs. Pike's peas paused. Then she nodded once, brisk and pleased. Lena drew a small breath. "I will walk that path," she answered. "I will not hurry you, and I will not hide. I will keep the books true, the rooms honest, and your word honest too, by reminding you when it slips." "That is what I hope," Cole said. He took a key from his pocket, the spare to the wardrobe, and set it in her palm. No more locked grief, only kept promises. She closed her fingers over the key. "Then here is mine," she said, and handed him a tiny star cut from scrap cloth. "A mark to keep near your pocket watch. When you touch it, remember to speak before the roof grows warm." He smiled in a way that reached his eyes. "Deal." Stars came on above the yard. Coyotes called and then were quiet. The house breathed like a chest at rest. Tomorrow would bring more work. Tonight brought a choice accepted. The next morning rose clean like a table set before a meal. Cole saddled his horse and checked each gate by habit, hand on chain, eyes on hinge. Names and checks matched. The crew moved with quiet purpose. No one hurried and nothing was missed. The place felt steady. Back at the house, Lena tied off the last curtain stitch and opened the nursery windows wide. Sun flowed in like warm water. The blue dress hung in its place, mended and calm. Mrs. Pike swept the hall and hummed a hymn. A home is steady sounds, and theirs were back. Cole came in, dust on his boots, and stopped at the doorway. He took off his hat as if entering a church. "I have a vow," he said, plain. "I speak before I suspect. I ask before I judge. I will not hide behind tests. I will build what I mean to keep." Lena stepped beside him. "Then I vow this," she answered. "I keep rooms honest, books true, and words gentle but firm. I will not let silence turn into heat. I will stand with you when truth is hard." Mrs. Pike set the broom aside and nodded. "Good," she said. "Now eat. Vows run better on bread." They shared coffee and toast at the long table, windows open to soft wind. After, Cole hitched the wagon and drove a load of spare timber to the school. Children clapped when they saw him, and the teacher handed him a note. "Thank you for fixing things." At sundown, the 3 of them walked the fence line once more. Coyotes watched from the far rise and did not come close. The sky went copper, then purple. Cole took Lena's hand, not as a test, not as a hidden thing, but in the plain sight of evening. "Tomorrow," he said, "we keep going." "Tomorrow," she echoed. Years later, so folks tell it, the ranch grew straight and steady. Travelers said the barn smelled of cedar and warm hay, never of smoke. The town school kept its fence, and the nursery window was always open to the south. As for the blue dress, it hung where it should, worn only on Sundays when the house needed calm and always put back with care. People would point at that place and say, "That was where a rich man learned to stop testing and start keeping faith." If this story steadied your heart, tap like and subscribe for more clean Western romances. Comment "Keep the gate latched" so I know you were here. Then right into the next tale on your screen.